things by Bren on stereotyping. And I am with Brandilyn today, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and the organization that she works for. And we're going to just talk about judging people. It's not right, but we all do it. And the problems that can arise from that, and the things that you miss out because you misjudge people. Brandilyn, tell us about who you are, what you do, and this great nonprofit that you work for.
My name is Brandilyn, and I founded Kansas Coalition for Sentence and Prison Reform a year ago this month. Our main goal is to help people that are incarcerated find their voice and teach them their rights while they're incarcerated, as well as helping the families of the incarcerated get through the time of the incarceration. I do have a loved one that's incarcerated right now in Winfield Correctional Facility, and I have been studying the Kansas prison system since 2009. I'm excited to be here. I believe that this is a very important conversation that needs to be had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that we all do. We all stereotype, we all judge, and it's especially harder for somebody that's come out of the prison system because you are viewed as a criminal. You're not viewed as somebody that has a value and a worth because you broke the law. You've been to prison, so now you are a low bottom feeder member of society. And that's just not true. There are a lot of good people that come from the prison system. There's a lot of bad people that's never made it into the prison system that you could be sitting right next to. They say, there's a saying that says, not everybody in church is good. Not everybody in jail is bad. And I truly believe that. And for you guys out there, what started this conversation is I do interviews about incarceration, and we want to educate the public about the entire system, what the families go through, what the incarcerated goes through, just what the whole judicial system has to offer or not offer those that are involved in it. And I had a police officer do an interview, and I'm not going to say his name, although I will tell you it was not Mr. Stanyon, that he believed that people could change. And he thought that, especially with a faith, that change was possible for people. And we were supposed to do a couple other things, and I sent him a little text message letting him know about the timeline that had changed, and he said, delete my number from your phone and never contact me again. Now, I didn't know him before, but there's never been a secret about what I do or where I've been. The news and the media and social media has made sure that everybody knows what everybody's business is out there. So that's what's kind of triggered this. And it was a shame because this man pretended, or I thought had a heart being a police officer for somebody who could change and that makes necessary changes, and actually commended what we were doing in this interview. So that's what started this. And I got a hold of Brandilyn. She said, yeah, let's talk about stereotyping. So here we are.
Yeah. I was very upset whenever you contacted me about this, because we've all made mistakes in life. You know, we have all been in situations that have led us down a path that we didn't see coming. We didn't see the end coming at all. And I know you as a person. I've gotten to know you as a person, and I think that you're brilliant, and working with you has been fantastic up to this point. So it really offended me that he would, automatically jump on board with this stereotypical mindset of that you could possibly be a threat to him. And I think that is the main thing that people don't stop and take a look at. Fear drives stereotypes. Like for me personally, especially women do this a lot, because if you don't smile, I think you don't like me. I'm just going to, if you don't smile, well, she don't like me, I'm not going to talk to her. And that may not be it all. That's just the average stereotype, that women have.
And women do tend to wear the emotions quite well on the outside. Yes.
Yeah, they do. But fear, a lot of times fear drives that, and how can I be in danger by interacting with this individual? And especially whenever it comes to those that are previously incarcerated, everyone has a story. The story began somewhere. You don't just, most people, you have those few, but most average people don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to go break the law and make sure that I end up in prison. There's a story that goes with that. And I was just talking to my husband earlier about people who they've actually been sentenced to life in prison after protecting their family. You know, whenever you have situations where somebody got caught up in drugs and they owe somebody money, and now they're high and they owe somebody on money, and this big scary drug dealer tells them, I'm going to kill your family if you don't give me the money. Well, then they feel guilt and fear and shame, and they're young. A lot of times, you know, they're kids themselves, and so they do what they think is best, and they go and take another person's life to protect what they feel like is going to be taken away from them. That's never okay.
Right.
But it does not mean that that person
Was out
is
looking
a,
to do harm.
no, he wasn't a predator. He wasn't a violent person. He's not a person that practices violence. It was a situation that happened. But whenever you look up people's Casper pages, for instance, Casper is a perfect example of that. And it just shows the cold first degree murder, boom,
Right.
like without parole. You know, you don't know the story. You don't know that they have brothers and sisters and moms, and that they were a straight A student, and they just got caught in a situation. So that in itself, saying the words murder or aggravated robbery or aggravated burglary or those person felonies that label people for life, I think most of those are driven by fear. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. And it is a lifelong label. And this is something I think our society needs to really look at, because we say, oh, let's give them another chance. But that's just somebody that possibly hasn't been in trouble. You really don't want to give somebody that's been in the prison system another chance. And there are a lot of really neat people out there. You know, you look at the Martha Stewarts out there. Well, she already had money, so that's okay, I guess, even though she did what she did. And I'm not bad-mouthing Martha. She did her time. She did her crime. She's out. She's doing whatever she's doing, and she's very successful. But what about the ones that aren't successful? What about the ones that can't go out there and make the money, or didn't have the money before they went in to come back out on top again when they got out? Those are the people who really have a rough life. And a lot of times they don't have the family support. So now you're labeled on top of everything else that you've been through. And it really changes your mindset, and it starts to develop a hate. And unfortunately, we have enough of that going on. But when we judge people, we are putting that out there, and we are contributing to that hate problem. We are contributing to low self-esteem of others. And let's face it, we all know somebody that's been incarcerated. Even if it's a friend of a friend or a family member, we know somebody somewhere that has been in the system, or we know somebody that's headed down that path.
Yeah.
And how many times have you tried to help them? So now let's say that person that you're trying to help, you've seen them going down a bad road, they get put in the system. They come out, all of a sudden they don't want to have anything else to do with you. And that's just sad too, because I guess what I'm trying to say is we all need people. We all need people. And when we judge, it makes it really hard to develop friendships. It makes it really hard to develop relationships that we need. And in order for everybody to be successful, not on a money level, on a survival level, we need relationships. You need somebody to talk to. You need somebody to bounce things off of. And when we stereotype, you're the one missing out. Bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. You know, whenever I go downtown, and everyone knows that I'm new to the Wichita area, and so whenever I go downtown and I take things to the homeless, or
Which you do a lot of.
Yeah, spend time down there. I've had people, aren't you afraid? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. I feel
people.
Right, less afraid down there than I do at Walmart. You know, and people who come out of prison, or people that have been rock bottom, and I have been rock bottom before myself, they are the most humble, kindest people that you will come across. They've got good stories, they're funny, and they're ready to help do anything. They just want somebody to be nice.
They have experience that can help you possibly get through all that stuff.
Yes.
And that's what I try to tell folks is, no matter where you're at now, nobody can take education away from you.
Mhm.
Education being schooling, being street life, just experience in general is education. And you can use that to move forward. You don't have to
Mm.
let your past be your future, but you can let your past help your future. And people don't want to let you do that. You know, like you said with the homeless, we did a lot of property management, and we used to have to go with people's properties and shoo them out, you know, if they were
Mhm.
living under areas and stuff. And it was really kind of sad because to them that was their home,
Right.
but
Mhm.
yet they were trespassing on our client's property, so we had to do our job as well. But
Yeah.
we told our staff, don't be rude, you
Yeah.
know, help them out. They're still just people. They live somewhere different than you do.
Right.
And
Yes.
sometimes it's by choice, not even out of necessity. It is a choice. Sometimes they have the choice to be living with family or to get that job. And you told me a story about somebody that was homeless. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? The guy that was dressed in a suit.
Oh, yes, yes. I went to a meeting one time, and there was a man that was in there, and he was dressed in a suit and tie, and he had, the spiky hair, and he appeared to be a professional. And come to find out, he was homeless because he had an addiction problem. Kindest guy you would ever meet, but I would have thought he was going to go out and get in his Mercedes and drive back to his fancy house. But the addiction led him to being homeless, and the only clothes he had is the work clothes that he used to wear before his addiction took
So
him
he
to
still
where he
had that.
was then.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
So,
it can also go the other way, because I was in New York City on business, and there was a lot of panhandlers there.
mhm.
And one of the guys I was there with knew the city, and I went to put something in the hat or can or whatever it was he had. He says, "Don't do that." And I said, "Well, why not? I want to help him out." He said, "No, because at 5 o'clock he's going to go around the corner and get in his BMW and drive away. That is
Mhm.
his job, and he's
Right.
making good money at it." And I
Right.
thought, wow, I would have never guessed that.
You
Never
know,
would have guessed that.
people have told me that before, and I'm a spiritual person, and so I always pray whenever I go downtown to meet with people. We're not supposed to ask. That's not a problem. For me personally, I'm not
No,
supposed to ask, hey, do you really need this money? I just go where God leads me to go, which I know this is kind of off topic, but that's another one of those situations
mhm,
of stereotyping people. They may be panhandling, that's their job, but they may also be saving themselves from having to go into prostitution or
exactly.
other lines of work. I
Mhm.
know there are people who can't get a job, they can't get Social Security, they can't get unemployment, and the only way that they can survive, then maybe they started out on the streets panhandling and worked their way into a home.
Mhm.
And so that again goes back to stereotypes. I don't think it's for us to judge. If we choose to give, I think it needs to be from our heart, and then we walk away from it, and that's where it stays. But that's
Absolutely.
just my
And
opinion.
you're talking about spiritual, we tend to give our money and donate our time to a church, okay, which we're called to do, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't think anything of that.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're called to do it in other areas, we tend to be very stingy. And it includes not just money, but our time, our thought process,
Yes.
um, anything that
Yeah.
might say, hey, I don't have to do that. You're going to use it as an excuse not to do it. I
Right.
had a friend of mine just got out of prison, and she's in a halfway house. And
Mm-hmm.
she sent me a message on Facebook, and she said I didn't have any clothes. She had put on weight, and her boyfriend had brought her up all her stuff prior to. And she said, I don't want to ask anything of you, but I really need underwear.
Yeah.
So I went and bought her underwear, and she didn't ask
Yeah.
for anything else. I bought her a couple snacks, and I went and just got clothes in her size, not new, just donations and whatever, and took them to her. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a gal who has been in and out for the last 6 years, and she's got an addiction problem, and she
Mm-hmm.
keeps going back. And instead of them putting her into a program that might help her, they want to send her back to prison all the time. And
Right.
each time she has to start over.
Right.
And then what forces that is she gets back involved with the same people because she doesn't know anybody else. So she says, hey, I need my clothes. And then that boyfriend brings the clothes. And then next thing you know, he's giving her money. Next thing you know, she's getting high with him. And the process starts over and over and over again. And there is absolutely nothing there for her to help her out of that cycle.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
hope she
Yes.
doesn't go back. I mean, I really
Right.
hope, but I have seen this now 3 different times in 6 years.
Yeah. I was watching Juvenile Justice and Corrections Committee the other day, and they were discussing, they took a moment just to discuss the bills that were on the table. And I really appreciated Russell Jennings doing that, because it kind of gives us an idea of where people stand when they think about reform. And I don't even like the word reform. I like the word to transform, because transform means to just completely change it. You know, reform means to just reform,
Rearrange
just
it.
keep doing the same things over and over. What are we doing here, right? But he's on one of the bills, it was to decrease the penalty for possession, drug possession. And one of the representatives or senators said, well, while I do feel like this is important, we know that they don't receive any kind of treatment while they're in prison. So I think it's too early to start releasing them. And I was like, so you
Wow.
know that they don't get rehabilitation. So this
Unless you
isn't
keep them longer.
right. I always thought that this was something that legislature didn't know. No, they're aware.
They are
They
aware.
just want to keep them locked away.
It's
And that,
because it's all about profit.
right.
The longer that the system keeps them, the more money they make. And
Yes.
unfortunately, for the people, by the people is not why our people are in office. They are in office for their career.
Their
What
career.
furthers their career are the bills that get passed. And instead
Yes.
of, until they have a child or a spouse, not even a sibling, but
Mhm.
somebody in their immediate family that they are close to go into the system, they will not make a change. And that
They
is
won't
very
understand.
sad.
You know, I didn't understand. I came from a place, I was very protected. I grew up in a good family, from the outside looking in.
Mhm.
And I was very far removed from the prison system. I believe that the law was there to protect us, you know,
I
blah,
did
blah,
too.
blah. And I have been so very disappointed and heartbroken at our leaders and at our civil servants that are in place, because they don't listen to the people. They are not there. They don't have the people's best interests at heart. And legislation, they are about, a lot of them are about their political career. They do try to listen and to the easy things like abortion and religion. That's real easy. That's
Yeah.
easy for a legislator to push, because you've got all these churches backing
Mhm.
it, and they're like, yay,
You
yes,
either
save
choose one
lives.
side or the other.
Save the lives. Well, what about the lives of the living people? You know, at what point do we, after they're born, they don't matter anymore? And that's kind of what I hear from the Republican side. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But they feel like they're protecting the community. And you and I know that incarceration is about security, not safety.
It's
There's nothing
all
in
security,
there.
because let me tell you from experience, it is not safe for the people that are in there.
No,
And
no.
it is, you know, I talk about this because when I was first incarcerated, I was still stereotyping people that I was spending time with. I'm not like these people. I am not one of them.
Hmm.
And the reality was I was just as wicked and as evil and needed to be in there as anybody else.
Yeah,
And if it wouldn't have been for that, I wouldn't have had a changed heart, a changed
right.
mindset for what I'm
Yep,
doing.
absolutely.
And
That's whenever I first started going to visits, I would sit in the visiting room and I would just look down at the table and I wouldn't talk to anybody and I wouldn't interact, because I wasn't like these people. I wasn't like these other parents and husbands or wives and brothers and sisters that had people that were incarcerated. I was different. And after I started getting to know people and the professionals and, you know, the preachers and all walks of life that
we're
have
all
people
just
that are in
people.
the system, yeah, we're all the same. And just today we were talking about my husband's at the end of his sentence,
Hmm.
and he's supposed to be doing reentry. He's supposed to be doing these things, which he did get to finally start reentry classes, but none of the staff has taken the time to get to come and know him.
They're not
All
going.
they know, no, all they know is what's on a piece of paper. Now, here is a man who has completely rehabilitated himself
Hmm.
with God's help, and he has went through all the motions and done all the things, but can't get the rewards. He can't even get somebody to give him a smile, or, you know, and his reward's going to be walking out that door. But still, the prison system is supposed to be to assess, treat, and release. Assess, treat, and release. On paper, that's what's written. The KDOC's new mission statement. That's awesome that they have a new mission statement on paper.
Yeah, you got to follow it. Now,
But
granted, there's
yeah,
some people that will never be released, and there's some people that do not need to be released.
absolutely,
But the
absolutely.
goal is to change.
Right. And to recognize that change in people and appreciate it, and to let that be known to the community. Whenever I went to my husband's first public comment session, and I saw the people that came in that were related to the victims of his incarceration, she said, I just want to know if he's changed. Well, she can't know, because first of all, she doesn't know what the charges are. He didn't directly hurt her family. And second of all, they don't allow them to communicate.
No, they don't.
They don't allow any restoration to happen. There's no restorative justice. And they want to keep the community afraid. They want to keep that stereotype there. He's been in prison. Don't hire him. Don't let him live next door. Don't let them work at your schools, even as a janitor. And I had a news interview with the New York Times the other day. And he said, you know, in looking up all of the news articles in Kansas, it really amazes me that they devalue the incarcerated more than anyone else in their state. And whenever he was saying they, he was talking about lawmakers,
Right.
judges, prosecutors, legislature.
It's evident with how they're treated,
Yeah.
starting from medical down to their food.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that stereotype set, until it's broken, we're going to keep seeing incarceration rates rise. And I have met, you know, through our organization, I communicate with people at all the prisons, except for the women's prison. I'm still working on that, but all of the men's prisons, I'm able to communicate on a business level. And even at Visit, I've come across, I mean, these are some really great people that have made a mistake. And we sit in church pews. I grew up in church pews next to people that have made mistakes. I have gotten into a car after having a couple of drinks. I have smoked marijuana. I have experimented with drugs. I can't say I've never stolen anything from a store. I've done all of the sins, you know, that I haven't done them on a large level, but I've been there. And like you and I were talking about earlier, some people do the small things and get locked away for a very long time. Right. And then other people do the great big things and do no time at all. O.J. Simpson is a perfect example of that. Another person that we totally did the reverse stereotype was Bill Cosby. Who would have ever thought such a thing, you know? And I loved Bill Cosby. I watched his comedy.
When I was younger, yes.
Yeah, I grew up with his family, and to find out such a thing. So I think that we're supposed to leave the judging to a higher power. And in doing so,
it's just been my experience, no matter what a person has done, if you have a relationship with them that you can forgive and love that person through it, then you will have some of the best valued relationships than you will ever have in your life. Yeah. And with me, like I said, I was stereotyping myself until I got in and realized that I was no different. The thing that really irritated me is when I found out from my family how people were treating them. You know, folks that they went to church with, that they were in there from itty bitty kids through high school, 20 years, would turn the other way from them in a grocery store. And, what did they do? They did absolutely nothing. So it takes it even a step further. And it's not just felons, it's skin color. It's if you're fat, if you look like you're anorexic, if you have scars on you, if you have a lot of tattoos, if you shave your head and you're the wrong color, then anything you're associated with, we are stereotyping. Let's just not forget that maybe that person just went through cancer, that they are not somebody that's anti anything. They are surviving cancer. And I can speak from experience on that.
Yeah.
And so now every time I see a female that has no hair, that's the first thing I think of. So I'm stereotyping them in the other way, but I want to go up and give them a hug and say, can I help you? And
Right.
what we
Right.
tend to do is, we see a fat woman, we ask her if she's pregnant,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
an example of
Yeah.
stereotyping, and
Yeah.
it just happens. So it's
Yeah. Or skinny people are on drugs
anything
or,
nice, don't say anything at all, right?
yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's very
But it's
true.
not the mouth and the tongue. We have to
Mm-mm.
change the
The
head,
way we
and
think.
we have to change the heart. And
Yep.
until we're willing to do that, I don't see anything changing anytime soon.
No. And unfortunately, I don't either. And it's really sad for humanity. I think that it slows things down. It
Mhm.
stops us from growth. And most of the people that I find that are the most stereotypical or they stereotype people the most are the ones that have lived in the same town their whole life with the same family, that never reach outside of their comfort zone, that know what they know that they know,
And nothing.
and they're so uneducated. They have so much to learn, and that's one of the things I loved about stepping out and meeting with other people and learning all this stuff that I was never given access to. There's so much information out there that I cannot tap into if I don't go to places that I'm not comfortable with, or that I find are scary or
Right.
not like me, that are different.
Mhm.
And I think once
Different's
we,
good though. I like different.
yeah, I
I
do too.
tend to gravitate to the different things because
Yeah.
I'm done being like everybody else.
Right,
Don't want to be
right.
that person anymore.
Yes. And through some of the experiences, especially moving to Wichita and the ways bed and breakfast and meeting different people, and people say, aren't you afraid? And don't you feel weird? And I'm like, no, it's so refreshing.
Mhm.
It is so refreshing to be around all of the different types of people and
And
learning
they're
about
probably
different
very
cultures.
appreciative in that culture of
Yes.
the homeless culture, because it is a culture. It
Mhm.
is a different way of life. It is its own little world, and they have their own mindset, and that's okay. There is nothing
Wow.
wrong with that.
Yeah. I do have a problem with being called the Bible Belt,
Yeah,
because I grew up in the Bible Belt reading the Bible, and I know what it says and I know the teachings of Jesus, and I just don't see them anymore. I don't you to be a Christian means to be a follower of Christ
absolutely.
and follower of Christ's teaching. And these are one of the things that made me pull away from religion and consider myself spiritual now over religious,
I
because I
religiously
don't.
go to work.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, I try. My boss might argue, but I try.
Yeah.
Um, the kindness and the acceptance that comes from the Bible is not shown from the Bible.
Yeah,
It's
but
only
it wasn't shown when the Bible was written. It wasn't shown before it was written. Man is
right,
still man. I mean, the Lord destroyed the world because we were so wicked. And,
right. Yeah,
but again, that is a mindset too. It
yeah,
is a mindset, and you either believe it or you don't. Just like stereotyping, you either believe what you're thinking about that person or you don't. We
right.
had an event that we did, and a person from my past came to this event and was one of the performers there. And somebody at this event said, wow, I think I really misjudged this person. And I'm thinking, 6 years later, you're finally saying that because you never took the time out to get to know that person.
Yeah,
And this person was a very, very dear friend of mine and
right.
has been with me through prior, during, and after, and has still loved me the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank him for that. He didn't have to come to this event and do the things that he did. He has forgiven me. He has grown from it as well. He learned from it. And for somebody else to see that change in him, I was excited for that. However, yes, you misjudged him.
Yeah,
You did.
yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on. And, stereotyping has so many different words:
It
misjudgment,
does.
stereotyping,
Mm-hmm.
judging, hate, uh,
Right.
even misassumption.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you could go on and on and on and on. Perception. I always say perception is some people's reality, but it does not
Yes.
mean it's true.
Exactly.
And,
Yes.
you were talking about, addicts who you don't really know, or they got involved with some drug dealers and they were coming after their family. So they did some things to protect their family. That happens in white collar too.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself in that situation. I was forced to do some things because I thought I was saving people's jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Did they care? No. They were the first to bash me. They were the first to bash my family. Never mind that you got years of a nice salary because of it. But that's hindsight now. And would I do it again? Absolutely not. But you don't know where a person's mind is when they're going through something. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
what their situation's like. You don't know what their family life is like. You don't know their mental state is huge. It's
Mm-hmm.
huge. Fear
Yeah.
makes people do things that they would never do before.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you have to overcome that.
Yeah, false evidence appearing real. I have to tell myself that often. False evidence appearing real is where fear comes from. And if we can't have checks and balances, I think that a healthy amount of fear is good.
Mm-hmm.
Of I don't want to say fear, but I, I don't know the word. I can't find the word that I'm looking for right now. But a healthy amount of caution is good,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But it doesn't have to be full blown fear until it's time. There comes a moment whenever fear makes you move, but you shouldn't live in fear. That's not why we were created. We were created to love one another, and I think that we show that love to the lowest in our society before we do the highest. And unfortunately, um, well, we should show it to everybody, but unfortunately, in today's society, we only show it to those that we feel are on our level.
Right.
We don't, that deserve it from us. We don't show it to those that we feel like are beneath us. They don't
Right.
deserve love, and
And
that's just
nobody
not
is beneath
true.
you, because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I am speaking from experience. It can all be taken away in a heartbeat. It can
Mm-hmm.
be taken away financially. You could lose your job. Your stock market could crash. People could steal from you. Your health, you might not be able to work anymore.
Mm.
A divorce could happen. People can walk out of your lives. You don't know what the future holds. So
Mm-hmm.
it can happen. You can think you are whoever you are on cloud nine and better than everybody else, but I'm telling you, it can happen to you.
Yeah.
It happened to
Yep.
me.
Yep. Most definitely. Yes, and I think as long as the prison system continues to teach their staff, teach legislature, teach the community to keep stereotyping, keep living in that fear, then we're not going to see the changes that we want to see in our communities,
Right.
in our school systems, in our job environments, because people, until we look at the roots of the problem, a good example of this is whenever these famous people that are in Hollywood go to rehabilitation centers, they're not cold, cement, smelly, moldy,
Mm-hmm.
dark places. They
Yeah.
go to, the ambiance is soft. There's soft music. There's counseling. There's let's talk about the root of what caused you to start doing drugs in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That is how you start to heal. And that is how a transformation takes place. But whenever you just put somebody in prison because they have repetitive drug possession, because they have an addiction, and you put them in metal cages, they're not going to rehabilitate.
No,
And by telling people this whole stereotype of do the crime, do the time. No, that is the silliest thing. And it's such a waste of taxpayer money and time, people's lives.
the problem is they do the crime, yes, but they're doing the time for the rest of their life. They might not be
Yes.
behind bars, but they are mentally doing that time for the rest of their life because they are being judged and mistreated by
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And they're made worse. They go into prison with addiction, and the addiction doesn't stop when you get to prison.
No,
There are
and there's
more
still access
drugs.
to drugs in prison.
Oh yeah, there's more drugs, more availability, and different kinds right there being brought to you. Um, and all you want to do when you're in prison is escape the hell that you're in called prison. And so then you're going to do more, and then you get out, you still have no coping skills, which is why most people do drugs, is because they don't have coping skills.
They want to
Um,
escape from it.
Yep. And so they get out, they still have no coping skills. Now they have to get a job, figure out how to pay all these fines with no money. figure out how to
And give
hold
half of
the
the,
job.
some of the, not half of, but a percentage of their money back to the halfway house if they're in that.
Yeah,
Or they're coming out with absolutely nowhere to live, trying to get a job, which they are going to be judged, trying to say, well, I like the way his hair, do you see the way he was dressed? We can't hire him.
exactly. He
Yeah.
smelled kind of funny. Or they come out with 6 years of back child support out the any
Yes.
money that they did save is automatically taken,
Yeah.
and they start out 6 years behind. I mean,
Or let's put them in jail because they didn't pay child support. So now they can't pay you child support, but now they've got the back child support in addition to, instead of maybe sitting down and saying, hey, how come you're not paying me? Or maybe he's been under, or she's been employed. I know women that have to pay child support.
yeah.
It,
And I know women that take care of men who, or take advantage of men, and
yeah.
vice versa, men who take advantage of women who have to pay child support. And so it's not always cut and dry.
No, I had an uncle whose ex told his kids that your dad never paid. He's never paid, never paid. Now there's times he didn't pay when he was unemployed, but when he was working for me, we took out child support and we sent it in every paycheck. And when this person came to visit me, I showed him all of this, and he was like, my mom's been lying to me.
Wow.
And it
See,
happens.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and she was building a wedge between the father and son, and that shouldn't have happened.
no,
It shouldn't happen. If it maybe it needed to happen for other reasons, but not because of a lie.
yeah,
Not because of a lie.
no, never, no, I agree. And finding more and more reasons to lock people up, and teaching the community that that this is acceptable. Whenever you watch, just over the past year, whenever we watch people move like swarms of those blackbirds that go in
Right.
the sky and they follow each other, that is what, to me, that is what our communities have looked like over the past year. If you look back at the Tiger King, everybody went and watched the
Yeah.
Tiger King.
Or look at our political lives. I mean, it's
Everybody,
ridiculous what's going on.
yeah, everybody's ready to jump on whatever bandwagon that is full of drama and gives them a chance to spew ugliness or their opinion, or they want to feel right. And just watching everybody, if the prisons really wanted to change, they would make people's lives change.
Right.
They would feed that
Mhm.
change, but they don't.
I got a letter from my daughter. She says, why do you do some of the stuff you do? And I said, because it's needed.
Mhm.
And I made a promise that if I could help, I was going to help. Do I get paid
Right.
for it? No. But it's not about the money. It is about making a difference. And then here we are almost 2.5 years, 3 years later, I get a letter from a lady that I've never met that was friends with a gal that I knew that's incarcerated.
Mm.
And she got a lot of time, and this lady did not. I mean, she did, but she's getting ready to get out. And she just wrote me the sweetest letter, because the lady that I had been sending letters to was sharing my letters at their Bible studies and their prayer circles, and sharing the books that I had sent her. And I could see that this woman was a genuine change. Not the lady that wrote me the letter, but the lady that I knew was a
Mm.
genuine change. And here it is 6 years later, and she's still preaching the word of God. She's got like 20 years, and she is doing it with a happy heart. And I
Yeah,
said, that is
yeah,
why I do what
yeah,
I do. And
yeah.
because you just have to teach one.
Mm-hmm.
She's telling others and telling others and telling others. So this lady that's getting out, she's going to home confinement. So she's got a support system. She's not going to halfway house. And he wants to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that one person turns into two, turns into three, turns into 10, and keeps
Right.
going and going and going. And with social media, we use that to display all the negative stuff. So why not use it for positivity?
Positive.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and let's get the
Absolutely.
word out on a completely different level, because
Mm-hmm.
we should all love. We should
Right.
all be willing to take a chance on somebody.
Right.
Now, is there a time where you stop? Absolutely. I'm not saying that everybody, you should try. You should try until that
Mm-hmm.
person proves that they are not worthy of that.
Right. Yep. I think the healthy boundaries are always important. My daughter came to me and she said the same thing. Mom, why do you fight for bad people?
Mhm.
And I was taken back, and I said, I don't fight for bad people. I fight for broken people.
Right.
And we're all broken at one
Mhm.
time or another in our lives. And I know there has to be a time when we were all afraid or sad or hungry. Something has happened in our lives to reach our own personal rock bottom.
Right.
It may not be your neighbor's rock bottom, but it's your own personal rock bottom. And that's where these people are. And like I told her there, if I can do anything, if I find a footprint on this earth that's positive, I would want it to be that I helped people that felt like they had no help at all.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And just think of, let's go back in time. If Rosa Parks wouldn't have refused to move to the back of the bus, where would they be right now?
Right.
People stood up for what they needed to stand up for, and I think
Yep.
we need more of that.
Yeah.
However, we need to do it in a positive, loving way, and not
Hmm.
with the way that we're trying to do it with hate. And
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no,
I have to say it's really hard for me. And if KDOC ever watches this, I'm being brutally honest. It is hard to interact with KDOC in a positive and loving way whenever they continuously poke and poke and poke and prod and bring shame to the families and bring incarcerated. Even in
it's those
trying, I just
families
sent.
that are paying their paychecks.
Right, exactly. But even today, I had to send an email on behalf of my loved one, and I tried to speak to their humanity first. I always try to speak to their humanity before I bring out my sword.
Right.
And so I did that, but it is hard. So I understand. I can only imagine from a victim standpoint. And I feel like those victims and those families are the only people who have the right to feel this way. Right? Anybody else that is not affected does not, in my opinion, have the right to feel this way. But I can only imagine from a victim standpoint, having to learn to forgive somebody that has wounded your family, taken somebody's life or taken their life savings, or, all of those things restorative justice entails. I cannot imagine being in those people's shoes. I've had to forgive people before, not for things quite as big as something like that. And I think that KDOC forcing people to go back to parole hearings every 5 or so years,
Mm-hmm.
that's terrible as well, bringing up the past again. But I feel for them, and I feel like we also judge the victims and what they're going through and what they're experiencing and how they feel, and that it's important that we don't stereotype them as well.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah.
and there are, in my situation, I have tried to go back to people that I have harmed. I have
Mhm.
tried to meet with them one-on-one. I have tried to have a mediator. Some have met with me, some won't, some refuse to even take my call, but I have tried. And I
Mhm.
cannot control what they do. I cannot control what they think. I cannot control what they say. But maybe through my actions, one day they will see that I am a changed person and that they might be willing to talk to me. And that's all I can hope for. If not, I cannot live my life in fear of running into them or
Mhm.
what they're going to say about me or do about me. And this isn't just me, this is anybody, because it's not even about incarceration at this point. We have all hurt somebody. We've all said something. We have all abused somebody, maybe not physically hitting them or sexually abusing them, but we have mentally abused them. We have said things that hurt. Our actions, just go back to high school, the two-faced friends, or they're only your friend in front of you. And,
Yeah, right.
we've
Yeah.
all had a bit of that. But if you can go back and make it right with somebody, you need to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, you
I
might not be able
I
to pay them back the money if you owe them. You might not be able to replace the property you stole because you sold it, or whatever happened. You might not be able to undo the fact that you gave them their first joint. You might not be able to do any of that, but you can go back and try to make it right and ask for their
Mhm.
forgiveness. And if you're not willing to do that, then maybe you're not changed. I mean, I don't know. There
Yeah.
are people out there that just don't care.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same
There are.
time, don't judge the ones that are really trying to change.
And but there are more that do care that then do not. They outweigh.
Right.
The prisons are full of people that that really do care and want to do good. And some people say, well, yeah, they want to do good while they're incarcerated. Well,
Mhm.
you'll never know, because the state of Kansas is never going to let anybody go. So
Right.
we,
And you know what I've also seen is unit team and counselors in the prison system. I think sometimes they start out because they genuinely want to help,
mhm,
but then bureaucracy gets in the way
yep,
and policy and not enough staff. And next thing
yeah,
you know, you're a unit team over 3 different units and
mhm,
you don't have time to help. So the job that you went into to really try to help is no longer the job that you're doing anymore. And now you're stuck because you got bills to pay.
and I can speak on that again if KDOC ever watches this. Um, I really, whenever it comes to unit team managers and I am one of the biggest stereotypes.
Mhm.
I think that way. I don't know how to say that correctly, but um, I'm the worst at stereotyping unit team managers. Now that I speak with so many people who need help, each person's each person has a unique case. Each
Mhm.
person has a unique amount of time. Each person has unique issues that they, it may be mental, it may be addiction, it may be this, it may be that. Now take that one person times 250 people that need this right now today, and you have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of deadlines to respond to the things. And so you can never really slow down long enough to do what needs to be done to help the people. Now, I think that is definitely part of the problem within the prisons. And I think eventually they just throw in the bucket and they
Mhm.
give up and they
They
just
do.
do what they can do to
Mhm.
make a
And now they're
paycheck
stuck in
and
a
go
job
home.
because they've got bills to pay. And that's
Yes.
all it is. It's a
Yep.
job.
And they don't know any better.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me this year that was a surprise to me is whenever they gave that first big business stimulus for the first big
And a
PPP.
lot of people took that.
Yes, they sure did.
Mhm.
A lot of people took that, but do you know who didn't qualify for it? Entrepreneurs that had a felony.
Yes. But they're
And
still business.
right. Now, who decided that? Now, you can't get a job when you get out of prison because nobody will hire you.
So you're
So
forced to almost start your own
So you
business.
start your own business. Now you are paying and taking care of other people. The entire United States has an economic breakdown, but you don't qualify. And why not?
Right.
Oh, I thought, and it wasn't the president that decided that. It was the IRS
Mhm.
that decided you don't
Which isn't
qualify.
even a member of Congress, a lawmaker, has nothing to do
No.
with any type of anything other than pay me what you owe me to the government.
Exactly. Now, if I had done that, if I had made that decision, I would go to jail.
Right.
I want to know who in the IRS made that decision. We'll never know, and they will not be penalized. And they'll say, "Oh, I thought that's just the way it was supposed to be." No, since when do you get to make up your own rules
Right.
and
And I
laws?
think once I understand losing some of your constitutional rights while you are incarcerated, but when
Hmm.
you are out, I think
Yeah.
that those rights should be reinstated.
Yes. Yeah.
I
I
just,
think.
you're still a person, you are still a citizen of the United States of America, and that Constitution was written for you. And it
Mhm.
has been amended and changed to fit what society thinks is needed because, well, they shouldn't have a gun or they can't go into office because if a felon's in office, then they're just going to bring all of their other no good people into office. And then who's going to be running the country? That's a stereotype.
I know. But what these people need to stop and look at is we are going to start voting them out
Yes.
and putting people in there that will make the changes that we're asking for,
Right.
that are the people that are tired of living in the slums, that are tired of fighting to try to feed their family. And because these people that aren't afraid to push the green or the red button because they don't want to make either side mad, won't do their job, what they're paid to put in
Mhm.
office, and well, they don't get paid very much money. Okay, they get paid more than I do, I
Yes,
promise.
they get paid more than the average American.
Well, they don't make very much. Well, no, what's not very much? Is it more than the person who
And they
can't
don't
get
even
a
have to spend
job?
their own money to run. They get charitable contributions to
Exactly,
rerun
to
for
put
all.
them out there. Yeah, but I bet they make more money than the person that's working 3 minimum wage jobs to try to take care of their family because
Right.
they have a felony.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm ready to get these people that just vote present out,
Yes, I
and
agree.
these people that are afraid to make ruffles within legislature, I'm ready to get them out too. And I know a lot
But
of people in
people need to
Kansas feel the
learn
same
to
way.
stand up for themselves.
Hmm.
Not only for themselves, for their own values and what they believe in. And
Right.
until you know somebody in that situation that you have to stand up for, people
Hmm.
don't, they're just gonna, I don't know anything about that. I'm just gonna stay over here and
Yep.
stay in my own little lane. And
Well, and that's one of the, I think it was Representative or Senator Smith. Don't quote me on that. I'm sorry. I don't know if it was a rep or a senator, but he said, I don't know enough about this to make a decision.
we'll go learn it.
Whose responsibility is
Right.
it? You have a bill that's coming. You
Mhm.
need to make a
Go
decision
educate
on it. Yeah,
yourself.
we're paying you to help pass. So it's your responsibility to go and
I
learn about
guarantee
it.
you a felon that has made a mistake, who maybe doesn't even have a high school education, gets educated real quick on our criminal justice system.
Absolutely.
They do.
Yes, you will meet the most intelligent attorneys coming out of a prison
Mhm.
system. You know, my husband is definitely a jailhouse lawyer. And what is sad about that, though, this is another stereotype. So a person who's been read all the laws, he can name them off back of his head. You know, he just knows what they are. Now, he goes and tries to submit a motion pro se, and the judge doesn't give it any credit
No,
because
because
he's
he's
pro
doing it by
se.
himself. Right.
Right. But you let an attorney come in with that same
Same
motion.
exact wording.
Yep. And they'll win it.
Yep.
That is garbage.
Yep.
That is
Yeah, I have
stereotypical.
to admit, my attorney, when I would tell her things,
Hmm.
she would say I didn't think about it that way, and she would use it, which was,
Yeah.
I was shocked because I had
Yeah.
one attorney tell me, quit trying to be the attorney.
Right. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm the one sitting here and can read. I've been reading all of this, and you're wrong. The
Right.
way you are doing this is wrong.
Hmm.
And well, you're splitting hairs. No, I'm not.
Right.
It's either yes or no. There is no
Right.
splitting hairs. That's what the law is. It's black and white. There is no gray.
Hmm.
And there is a lot of misinterpretation. So
Hmm.
you're not going to split hairs if it says you did this and the time you're going to do is that. Okay,
Right.
no splitting hairs if I did do that, but so and so over here got less time for that. So you can use that case law.
Right. Right. Or it's not splitting hairs if I didn't do that, but I'm convicted of it and doing
Right.
time for it.
Mhm.
There's no splitting hairs in that. You
No,
should not have to take that to court.
you
And I
should
just,
not have to take a lesser plea to get out of charges that may or may not have been true either.
no. And you shouldn't have to do life in prison, 30, 35 years for something that you didn't do. And the prison review board won't release you because you won't admit that you're guilty.
Right.
That
Yeah.
is
And a lot of people,
ridiculous.
especially when they say in the federal system, which I'm sure it's the same in the state, that the people who take it to trial lose. It's
Hmm.
not that they take it to trial and lose. It's that people take a plea because they're afraid to take it to trial because they're told if they lose, they're going to do more time.
Yep.
It is their right to go to trial. They should not get more time because of that. And you
Right.
can admit to a lesser crime or a different crime just so you can not go to trial.
If my husband would have taken a plea, they would have given him 10 years. Now, this is my big scary husband, right? That he can't be released because he is a danger to society and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
No. But had he taken the plea, he would have gotten 10 years.
Right.
But since he didn't get the plea, they gave him life.
Exactly.
So tell me how he was more dangerous because he didn't take the plea.
That's what
He's
I'm
not.
saying. It's wrong. It's about their careers.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the careers. And judges, the majority of them have been prosecutors. They haven't been defense attorneys. And I think that needs to change. I think we need to see more defense attorneys sit in the bench so that they can have a broader idea of what actually goes on, because they move on to the next case. They're not thinking about that person. That judge
And
is
I don't know if you watched that legislative hearing whenever we had an appellate attorney trying to become a judge,
mm-hmm.
and legislation refused, saying that he might, he didn't have the right attitude because he was a defense.
Mm-mm.
He was a defense
Bad.
appellate attorney, and
But
they didn't allow him.
That's just stupid. It really,
Yeah.
in the state of Missouri, a felon can become an attorney.
Hmm.
Not in the state
Really?
of Kansas, but in the state of Missouri,
You
a
can't.
felon
I'll
can
be
become
darned.
an attorney. Yes.
Wow. That's
I mean,
really
anybody can go to
cool.
law school and pass the bar, but they might not allow, they won't license you. But
Yeah.
Missouri, it depends, but I'm sure there's some guidelines in there. Kansas is an absolute no, but Missouri you can.
Wow. Yeah, that's really sad because a lot of these people would come out being very good, better than a lot of the attorneys that
And they might
we
actually
have in here.
fight for you a little more if they
Right.
know what's going to happen to you on the inside.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I also have to say that some attorneys are so bogged down they don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have time, but there are some good ones. There are some good, and there's some good paid attorneys, and there's some bad paid attorneys. There are some great defense attorneys that are public defenders, and there are some that are not so good. That's in any job. It's not just
Yeah.
because they're attorneys. It's not just because they may or may not make any money. Everybody assumes that an attorney is rich, and that is not true. I saw my attorney come in with worn shoes and the same outfit, and she worked her butt off. And even if I didn't have any news, she says, I was here, so I'm still coming to see you, even though I don't have any news. That was a good attorney.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're not all like that. No, they're not.
Yeah.
And they're so busy, and they are so weighed down. And even and I feel for the bigger cities because it just gets worse. It does.
Yeah,
It
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But we stereotype attorneys too. And bottom line is
You
they're
do.
just people. It's just a job.
And I stereotype police officers.
I do too.
I automatically assume, oh, you're bad because you're a police officer. When they maybe just, I still show respect. I'm always very respectful, but I just really have a hard time respecting people who want to. It's like the reason for whenever I was a kid, you wanted to be a police officer or a fireman because you wanted to protect people and be the savior of keeping people safe. And it's just gotten so far away from that. And
the mindset of a police officer, if you have one that's wicked, like you said, if this guy would have been on the side that was the one arresting me, how would I have been treated?
Yep.
Yeah, you just don't know. There's no need to have, I can see if you're in a shootout and you're in a dangerous situation that you might need to be a different type of cop, but on the average run of the mill stuff, you don't have to be a jerk.
Right.
You don't.
I am. And I think, I'm an Xer, I'm a Generation X. And I love my mother and I love my family, but that age group and older, the older baby boomers, whatever that is, I feel like until they retire, things aren't going to change. And it's really sad that I have to say that, but
they were dealing with somebody that's part of the good old boy system.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Blood in. Yes.
Yep. Until we get forward thinking people in there, they're not going to change. And I feel that way, unfortunately, about racism, about systematic racism, about systems in general. I was just talking to my mom the other day and I was like, every single system, the school system, the medical system, your work systems, the prison systems, anything that is system related becomes so corrupt and so big. I mean, Walmart, perfect example. Sam Walton started out really with pure intentions, and look what it is now. The people who work there can't even help you find the stuff.
Or do they want to?
Yeah, they don't know.
Right.
So
and it's not the same in every store.
No, it's not. And I think that we're going to see a change in the next decade or two of people wanting to shop homegrown, of people wanting forward thinkers in office, of people moving away from church buildings and out into the streets where the people are needed. That's what I like to think, and that's what I'm really hoping that we have to look forward to is.
Well, the church used to take it to others. That's what it used to do. And now everybody, and we're called to fellowship, and I'm okay with that. But we don't just need to go to church on Sunday. you know, there's a song and I can't remember the name of it, says, what if we went to church on Monday too, you know, and
Right.
Tuesday, and we took it forward, which is what we're supposed to be doing. And
Right.
through your actions, you will really
Yeah.
know what that person is
Right. We are the church.
right.
Yeah, we are the church. So yeah, I
Exactly.
totally agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brandilyn. We'll bring this
Mhm.
to a close. And if anybody wants to get in touch with either of us, just comment on the YouTube, go to Facebook. It'll be posted on different sites. And if you got some comments about either if you've been mistreated or you don't think that anything that we've had to say tonight is the truth, then let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely.
So thank you
Yes.
guys for joining us and have a great day.